Here I am with Akbar Gbajabiamila, who is a former NFL player and now a reporter for the NFL Network. When going from San Diego State to the Raiders, I know that you had an emergence where you went from a defensive end to a linebacker. When looking at the draft, one of the top incoming players is from LSU, Barkevious Mingo. What would you say he's in for?
Well, I've watched Barkevious Mingo, coming off the edge over at LSU, and he's got a lot of explosion. He's very comfortable getting into a three-point stance, and I think the transition part for him, like what happened to me, is that as a defensive lineman, you can be so zoned in on your blocking schemes, on how to get up the field, but the difference between playing end and outside linebacker is understanding the entire concept of the passing game, learning how to get into zone coverage, and that's going to be the hardest because the mechanics are totally different. You got to stand up, twist your hips, read zone coverage. You got to be able to know route discipline. You have to see, what the receivers, how to count in the backfield. So a lot of that stuff takes some time to evolve, and the more complicated the defense, obviously, the more it's going to require for you to know about football.
Now, Barkevious this is all being talked because of his size. And how do you think that plays into it?
Well, I think Barkevious is a good size. I mean, I think guys like Darren Sproles, guys like Drew Brees, these are the guys, or even guys like Russell Wilson, they kind of make the point that size doesn't really matter as long as you have the talent. And I think with Barkevious, Barkevious is not a 6'6", defensive end, but I think when you look at his ability to move, his explosion factor, he's a playmaker, and that's what is important for a guy like Barkevious is how much can he impact a game, and Barkevious does that.
Now, for you personally, going from an NFL former player to the other side with the media, how is that for you, talking to these players? Do you feel like you have a connection, or how does that exactly work?
Well, I call it a locker room connection because there's something a brotherhood that you share with other players. There's a commonality, and I think that's what you're able to draw. And for me, I've been able to draw on that, relating my personal experiences to their personal experiences, because what we know for sure is that even though we're on different teams, even though we went to different colleges, we have the same experience. I say Toradol to a player, he automatically knows what that means. I say ice and stem, he knows what that means. So we can connect that way, and that's, to me, that's the best way to bring the most out of a player.
Now, after this big Sunday game, preceding that Monday morning, what do you think the headlines are going to read across the country?
Colin Kaepernick will never lose his job.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
All right.